was it really you?
And that's why you never take a corn feed to a hen fight.
That's right.
I
Lesson learned, man. Some people have to learn the hard way.
don't even know what that means. It can mean anything, but I had to think quick on my feet. um, Welcome to the Trampled Underfoot podcast. Your host, Sir Mark Lindsay, out on the West Coast, and Eloy Escajedo over on the East Coast of these United States of America. And we go live every Tuesday, except for today, which is Wednesday. And that is because of something that Mark uses, circumstances. I think, what's the word? Due
Due to circumstances beyond our control.
there,
Yeah.
there. That's the key. That's basically the hall pass. That's Mark's hall. When Mark lays out that wording, my translation is hall pass,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hall pass. Um, so we welcome everybody here. I wanted to we were talking behind the scenes about some interesting things to do with AI and in particular with writing and how people use um, AI to from one extreme to the other. Marx was suggesting earlier he could speak for himself, but it suggested it before. Or, well, you can proofread, have something correct for errors which are just like the basic fundamentals that an actual physical editor at a news paper would do, or a publishing house would do. Um, but then there's this other extreme of the case where you know you could say something like, "Hey, look, write me 5 articles to do with the moon and how that's important for gelato in 18th century Italy." Just
Mm-hmm.
I just um, and I don't even know what that means, but whatever. Um, so there's two extremes, and then so this whole world of AI, that's what we were talking about. And just to finalize, to see what Mark opens up with. When we started this show, I believe back in at least 2018, maybe earlier, about 2018, maybe.
2018, I think. 18 or 19.
At that time, you would not have heard, as far as I'm aware, either of us mention anything to do with AI.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pop culture. It was music. It was movies. It was TV of our time. What we grew up with, what we watched, what our favorites were, what our least favorites were.
Right? We didn't touch on. So what I'm getting at is that when we started, what is today in the past few years, and especially in the past year and a half, compared to back in the day, which we can call it that. Usually, when you say back in the day, you mean I mean the 1980s. Even I could even push it to the 90s. I could push it to the 70s, although, but you can go into the 60s. So for generally speaking, back in the day. But if you take the window of like these few years,
Mm-hmm.
the leap in technology in terms of that
Mm-hmm.
is transformational to such a degree that that I think just on our casual level, we should have a continuing revisiting conversation about, because there are, and that's what I wanted to touch on as we go, but there are pros and cons. And people yesterday commented on an image that I put out, and you included,
Yeah.
and I wanted to touch on that theme. But what are your thoughts? Just what are your thoughts, and or what would you like to incorporate? Just before
Well,
we.
no, you started the progression there. You started the timeline, is what I meant to say, and I think that pretty much encapsulated it. But it's weird to think of 2010 as back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, or even 2018 or 19 is back in the day. But
Mhm.
uh, it's things move so quickly. And I remember us talking about this. We don't know what the next big thing is going to be. We have no idea what the next big thing is going to be.
We don't.
And that was just a couple of years ago. And here it is. It's called AI. You know? Let's see here. AI, Jim Dockrell says AI does not have the inner workings of a human for motivation. I agree with that. It can do things, but has no need to write a sad song, make a beautiful painting, or write an epic poem. I agree with those 100%. It takes human input. But that's part of it right there is that it's so easy to do that. You can have an AI write you a script for a story with, say, 5 chapters. And you want these characters, and you want this situation, and you want this kind of ending. And it'll write you a story of 5 chapters, however long you want it to be. Then you can plug into another AI and have it narrate the story with some flashy graphics and what have you. There are YouTube channels dedicated to that. And you'll see they post like 3, 4, 5 videos a day. Knowing that there's an audience out there that just wants 10, 15 minutes of downtime, and will plug it in and sit back and just listen.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do, but you're absolutely right, Jim. It's not a human. It doesn't know how to be human. It doesn't even know what a human is, other than what the data set says. And I mean, but there are tells. You can hear AIs make mistakes, and when you're listening to some of those things, like maybe somebody didn't hit the space bar after a period, so it thinks that that period is part of the sentence, and it'll say the word dot and just keep going. you know, which is funny to see. But anyway, um, kind of makes me wonder why I haven't set up an AI channel already. Be easy to do.
So the things that come up in my mind with this exchange, Jim's points and your response to it. Um, See, let me just preface this. I don't want to call it a problem, but it's a matter of of speech of utility. Um, I don't neither. I don't just see what Jim says and you say as valid or invalid. Um, I don't disagree with what Jim and you said, but attached to it, the way I think is, and of course, you can't reply to Jim with every consequence that entails
Sure.
the thing that he said. You have to
Mm-hmm.
narrow down your path and offer what you said. Um, and the same thing happens with me because I'm doing that right now too. I'm narrowing
Mm-hmm.
out of all the possibilities that I could reply from Jim's point that you then reflected on and answered him. I'm doing the same thing because now I'm answering you and Jim through my vantage point in a singular, funneled down reply.
Mm-hmm.
So what is happening with this is this: um, Jim is a point of view, you're a point of view, and and the audience are points of views. We're all human, but we're operating from our lenses with the memory of meaning of everything around us. Like what is a tree? Well, hell, we all can agree on what a tree is until we can't, which is if I interrogate you or Jim, or you interrogate me, any of you, over what tree popped up in my head, it could be for you an oak tree, or for me some sort of Florida stopper tree, which are common in this area that have this weird sort of um, veiny branching. Whereas for Jim, it could be the pines, of the Great North, or vice versa, or something in between, or it could be all of them.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is that we all have these different perspectives, and so is it wrong? Wouldn't it be right to say that Jim's perspective is valid in the context of other perspectives having validity too, that on balance, if you hopscotch to those other perceptions, if you ask somebody down in old Mexico, they might think that a cactus is the item, although it's not a tree. Is it a tree? Is it a cactus a tree? See, so they might see something else when the
Yeah.
you're laughing because
Mesquite trees or something like that, and it depends on whereabouts you are in old Mexico.
right. So now broadly that
Hmm.
um, I see this as valid, both of your exchange, and then I see additional things. So here's my question that popped up. One of them, as you guys were interacting, um, are we suggesting? Are you guys suggesting, or is Jim suggesting, and you're agreeing that this idea of motivation, because he says AI does not have the inner workings of a human being or of a human for motivation. It can do things, but it needs. I'll stop there. Basically, he's saying there AI is not human, and it does not include motivation. That's a human
Hmm.
um, quality,
Yep.
not an AI quality. Now, my question is, um, why? I understand that. But my
Hmm.
question is, why is that the choice focus? Why is that separation being made? Because I'm thinking, isn't AI, if you break it down, the same as a canvas and a paintbrush? Or if we don't want to look at like utility, those are just things that humans can use to create something.
Hmm.
Um, whereas a painter takes brush to canvas,
Hmm.
there's a manual brain, there's an interconnected
Yeah.
thing going on. um, AI is man or human woman.
Hmm.
It's raining man. You have to curate the man in this world, modern world. Humans, isn't it true that just like the paint on the brush and the human doing that on the canvas, isn't it like in that level a human speaking or typing into this tool, and the tool is producing a result? The mediums may be different, but isn't it man utilizing tools anyhow? So it may not have um, it may not have humanity consciousness as we do, or more motivation. It has to wait for us to act. It's the
Right.
same as the brush and the canvas,
Right.
or any number of other
I,
examples that you could probably draw. So what do you guys think about that?
I agree with you 100%. It is a tool that has no consciousness that requires your input to use. I agree with that wholeheartedly as well. But the two don't disagree with one another. The 2 points
No,
actually just kind of follow, one follows the other.
right, but I'm saying is, why did he have? he feels the need. There has to be a reason in his mind,
Hmm.
in Jim Dockrell's mind. There has to be a reason why the lens of Jim Dockrell that scans the earth for meaning and cohesion and clarity, that lens of Jim Dockrell up there in Canada, different than you and I, his eye of raw
Hmm.
turned and focused on this. It's not human, and it has no motivation. Why did it? Why did Jim's focus um, deem it necessary? What is he? Happening behind that? What are the
Well,
implications in Jim's mind that he needed to or wanted to contrast that? Why is that important for Jim?
well, I think only Jim can answer that, but to me, I think it indicates a separation from human and machine. And that could be that could be coming from any direction. Maybe a mistrust, maybe a bias against or a bias for. I mean, could be any kind of motivation there that would make a person focus in on that one aspect. Then again, it may have just been a reaction to something I said or something you said. Maybe I made a statement and that he was trying to, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, that kind of thing. I mean,
That's
I think
right.
only I think only Jim could answer that. So you could go in any direction. That's why I don't like to second guess people, and that's one reason. Just further evidence that you miss so much in text, because and that was the point that I was trying to make when you posted that AI photo or that picture rather, that image, and then you told the story of how you came up with that image and what was going on in your mind when you asked it to do that. My comment was, if those two things, your post about how you arrived at this image and the image, ever got separated, it would still be a great image. It would still be beautiful. But without the context that says where that image came from, it's just another pretty picture.
Right. It requires, in order to have, so it's a great point. In order, so I posted it. Let me go through this, and then we'll look at Jim's thing. But
Okay. All
let me
right.
answer that you're saying again. I'm just following the
Mm-hmm.
road that you just paved.
The flow of the conversation. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm working it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know that I uploaded a picture to my profile
Mm-hmm.
already with on that level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's authorship or connected to
Mm-hmm.
me because I uploaded it to my page.
Right.
And so now there's identification by you
Mm-hmm.
and others. Eloy has uploaded an image, and then the next thing, this is Eloy, whatever Eloy means to other people, because what Eloy means to you or Jim
Mm-hmm.
or whoever is different than what Eloy means to Eloy, because Eloy and Eloy's skin is, anyways. So now you have identified the Eloy that you know,
Mm-hmm.
which overlaps with the Eloy that I am for sure, but it's not the totality of me. There's
No.
missing pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is an image, and so now that means connected to this person
Yeah.
that you figure in your mind as being this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Um, then you look at the image and the wording that I attach to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say to me, "Look, there's a cow sipping
Yeah.
salt, which
Yeah.
might not be, which might not be conducive to the overall
that
health of a cow. There's
that was a joke, by the way.
no, no. Well, I understood it as a joke,
Mm-hmm.
but here's the thing: See, I don't want to branch off into. I want to stick with the thing because I know
Yeah.
what the joke,
Okay.
but
Okay.
that's another good point. See, this is the problem. Every point is a good point. Like
Yeah.
literally or
Well,
figuratively is a good point. And if we abandon that
right.
now
I
situation,
get you.
okay, so there's so many branches that, and like I'm
Sure.
tempted to go there because it's a great, but I want to stick to the main road that we were on.
Yeah.
Um, you said, well, look, the cow is sipping on the whatnot.
Or I think I said I don't know how good for the cow sipping salt water is.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And so then I replied
Hmm.
by basically framing
Hmm.
what what I had intended,
Hmm.
which was basically I said, look, I was working with Gemini, which is
Hmm.
Google's AI, and I had uploaded previous photos and this I didn't tell you, but I'm telling you now because I was working just to test out what it does and this that the other because I
Yeah.
usually do not work with images. I work with
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
interrogation. I use it as a psychological philosophical tool to engage and argue in order to sort
Yeah.
of clear the weeds and look into the mind.
Hmm.
But in this case, I'm working with the images. Um, I then asked it, look, can you create something that blends everything we've talked about, just squish it into a painting and offer that to me that shows the journey of a family from Cantabria, Spain to Cuba and then to Miami. And whatever else I said there, I
Hmm.
just let it
Hmm.
create. I didn't ask for a boat on the shore.
Uh huh.
I did mention the family name. I asked
Yeah.
it to look for the Escajedo family online. I didn't ask for the boat on the shore.
Uh
It
huh.
just gave it to. I did ask for a cow.
Yeah.
Um, and then I mentioned the three locations: Cantabria, Spain, Cuba in the Caribbean, and Miami in the United States. And it compiled this image from what I offered it.
Hmm.
But here's the thing: it produced the. I'll say it like this, and then we can whatever your thoughts are. It produced something out of a bridge from my mind.
Hmm.
So my mind knows the story,
Hmm.
but my words and my typing is a shorthand of the images in my brain
Hmm.
where I can see the actual house. I can see the faces of the people, the details of when they were born, the locations, the stories behind my parents in Cuba, the Miami experience. Like I have more than
Hmm.
I can translate into words, but
Hmm.
that language typed out into this computer
Hmm.
program is the bridge from the
Yeah.
human consciousness into this ones and zeros
Right.
artificial intelligence thing, and it produced an image. And to finalize, people in the comments there um, reacted to it, especially those from Cantabria that are my cousins.
Hmm.
I don't know if you read, but they're my
I
cousins
I
came
read a
up.
couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they came up and they all live in Spain.
Oh, okay.
All of those people live in Spain. They're my cousins. They just left. Some of them never left Spain.
Hmm.
Others had to leave Cuba, and then instead of coming to Miami, they just went back to Spain.
Okay.
So those they are my cousins, like second, third cousins.
Okay.
Those are my second, third. So in other words, we share Diego Millán as our and Balbina Salmon as our common ancestors. Uh,
Okay.
that's how close we are. So they took issue to one degree or the other with the accuracy of not the casona, the traditional Cantabrian home, but the landmass around it.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, they said, oh, well, okay, so the Casona, I can see it, but the land and that car, instead of a car, it should be hay bales and it should be a wagon
Hmm.
because literally that's what they I mean, remember Spain was, and so we should see wagons and this, that, and the other, but instead they saw a 1950s car
Hmm.
on a road that spilled into this lush, flowery vegetation that simulates Cuba.
Hmm.
And then there's a shore where you saw the cow, and that cow, I said, oh, look, it even has Gregorio Escajedo's cow because he was a rancher and
Hmm.
a sugar mill
Hmm.
businessman. And that's where you said sipping on the water. And then you see Miami. Even Miami is a version of. So, long story short, I see it. My reply to everyone there is look, um, this is an impression like a dream
Hmm.
because it's like a Dali or a Picasso. It's a adjacent
Hmm.
thing to Cantabria. It's an adjacent thing to Cuba. But if you think about it, it's none of it. It's just an impression, like a dream.
Sure.
So, um, you know, how much is our expectation in our mind of what real is or authentic or what's correct?
Hmm.
It's all dependent on how we accept or not.
Understood.
That language is in our head,
Hmm.
but the computer doesn't know that. So it's,
That's the point. The computer doesn't know. The computer doesn't know that cow, and that's what I thought was funny, and that's why I commented like I did. Instead of putting the cows up by the Cantabria house, like your cousins probably would have been more familiar with, it put the cow on a beach drinking water, drinking the ocean water. And have you ever? I've never seen a cow on the beach. Have you?
but my problem
I,
with it, no, I haven't.
I don't know, but see that's my point about AI making errors. You and I would probably picture cows up by the house in the fields up there more than we would picture it down on the beach.
But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You, let me lay this out because this is a pivot point. This is an important little point. Some of the things you just said, I have to say it like this, but because we're exploring this, assume that you're correct. What do I mean by that? That what your mind and my mind, that we're correct, let's say, so that we don't just focus on. Let me say it a different way. Our expectations are formulated in our minds. So I'm going to take the cow image. Why? Why is the cow drinking the seawater as opposed to walking up in curiosity to the ocean side? Why must it be? Who translated the cow next to the water with his head down, touching the water, into it drinking the water as opposed to it fluttering with this looking at the seaweed on the like who knows what the heck? Um, does it have to be that it's drinking it? Is that conclusion something that you've generated? Even if 100 people or 1,000 people called it, he's drinking water. Is he drinking water? And by the way, it's not even a cow. It's ones and zeros. It's a representation of a cow by an ocean in an abstract world. So you see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying. Question reality.
What we think what we think is,
Mm-hmm.
especially in an AI generate. So look, if you were to, or I, or Jim, or Steve, or Linda, if we were able to pull our perfect expectation of where that cow were to be placed, then yes, you're correct 100%, because would I have placed it by the shore? Out of 100 options, maybe one of them or half a percent of them could maybe have been because of the transitional image that it is in a sort of surreal way. Maybe one or half a point, or maybe, but often more than not, since we share the same reality, our logic and our tendencies, because we would place the cow somewhere in a field
Hmm.
with maybe a background that simulates Cuba, that would be reasonable. But is it reasonable? It's reasonable to me? But again, like what you've been suggesting, the computer itself, the AI, the bridge between what a human expectation, which by the way are endless, although there's common threads, the computer is taking all these images probably from the world around it, like the internet and data and this and that, and making this thing that is adjacent, surreal. So you see, these are the questions that come up. That yes, ultimately, you're right. Whatever's in your mind is shared by me to a great degree. Even if we said, "Oh, Mark, think of a tree," even if your tree was a mesquite tree and mine was like a pine, you and I are still in the neighborhood as human beings of, okay, we're in the world of trees. But AI, sure, it's in the world of trees if you prompt it tree, but the tree might end up on the hood of a car.
Exactly. And that defies logic. It also defies reality. Now, you could have a tree growing up through a car. I've seen that.
Mhm.
But you can't have a tree growing on the hood of a car. So that's what I mean. That's an error. But the AI doesn't know that it's an error because it doesn't know what a tree is. It only knows what the data set tells it a tree is.
Nor does it know what error means.
Exactly. It doesn't know what a car is. It only knows what the data set tells it what a car is. And the data sets don't tell it that trees don't grow on cars.
But but but
But
what
it
you
doesn't know that.
but what you define as error
Mhm.
lives only lives in a few places, but also in your mind, depending on what you want the output to be. So, in other words, in
If
in this situation, let me just finish this concept. In this particular situation, using that tool, what's contained in your mind is super clear because it's originating in your mind, but you're bridging it out into the AI using language. And if that language is not bumper carring, bump using bumpers to get it
and
there,
that's where I was going to go. It all depends on your prompt as well. If
yeah,
I want a sepia tone image of a fighter plane and I get a high definition color photograph, that's not what I asked for. That's an error.
whose
Now,
error? Whose error?
the AIs, because I specifically said I wanted sepia tone.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay. Now, if I ask for a sepia tone image of a fighter plane and it gives me a sepia tone image of a battleship, that's still an error.
Let me throw in this alternative.
Go
What if
ahead.
it throws? What if it throws in a sepia tone? What if you ask it to produce a sepia tone image of a fighter plane, and it produces a sepia tone of a fighter plane, but the sepia tone fighter plane it produces is angled in a way that in your mind or your expectation for whatever project you had is in a different is in a different or
Different orientation? Well, then I know I need to narrow that down, the orientation that I want or something like that. That's
right.
what I'm getting at. But For instance, you just mentioned cow. Did you tell the AI where you wanted that cow to be? No.
Not
So
that
it
I remember.
it just put it someplace.
But I didn't ask it for a boat.
I'm understood, and that's what I'm getting at too. It produced something you didn't expect the boat, did you?
No.
Okay, so we could we could bounce back and forth as to whether or not that boat was an error because you didn't specifically ask for a certain type of flower and it used several different flowers to kind of give a Caribbean feel to it. You just asked for a Caribbean feel and the boat fit right in with that Caribbean thing.
Let me answer
And
that.
the and all the flowers did too.
Let me answer that. You said maybe it's not an error, this and that. In the case of that image,
Mm-hmm.
none of it was an error because my expectations going into it, I already knew there was a disconnect between what. So I asked it, create a sort of collage blend of
Okay.
of the family traveling from one place to the other throughout time, and just make
Okay.
it to this thing. My
Okay.
prompt was open ended in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
and what it produced was flowers I didn't ask for. It thought probably it searched and it connected the Caribbean with flowers, and therefore there you have flowers. It thought of
Well,
Cantabria and it connected Cantabria. In the middle, it has that red car. It probably thought of Cuba being frozen in time in the 1950s.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it added that classic car. And then for Miami, it probably sifted through who knows how many images and descriptions, and it blended
And
this
there
sort of.
was the beach and the high rise. Yeah.
So in this particular case, I didn't expect something in particular. I just wanted to see what it would do.
Yeah.
And so I found it good enough
Mm-hmm.
as an impressionist concept with a spirit in there, but the spirit in there is because I'm adding the meaning to it, like you said.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Without your context, like I said. And don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing the picture. I just thought the cow on the beach was funny.
No, I'm not
Um,
criticizing. I'm not criticizing you criticizing the picture or
well,
criticizing the picture.
yeah, I'm not criticizing the picture because it is cool.
Yeah,
But now you just explained something that I don't think you put in your text in your post that you asked it for a collage.
I did
Now it's
pause.
a completely different story
Yeah,
because a collage is taking elements that may or may not go together and putting them together.
yeah, but
So trees growing in midair in a collage make perfect sense.
let's not take the word. It's some I forget now exactly what I used, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something like collage. It was either collage. The point is this:
Mm-hmm.
it was either collage, surreal, or congealed, or a journey, or a
Mm-hmm.
dreamscape. It
Yeah.
was that. But the point is this: what I prompted it
Mm-hmm.
was an open-ended thing.
Okay. Then I withdraw my joke.
Well, no, it's still applicable. Look,
Well, no. Because, and the reason I say I withdraw the joke is because in that sense, in that case, Cal could have been driving the car. Because if it's a dreamscape or something like that, it doesn't have to make sense.
well, but you look at it and it has to be a dreamscape. Because how could it be? You see what I'm saying? See
Yeah,
where
I know what you're saying. It's an impressionist image because reality doesn't blend Cantabria with Miami.
exactly. So
So it's a bunch of vignettes put together. Yeah, I get it.
the problem people were having
Hmm.
is that they were foregoing what was obvious in front of them, or at least should be, according to my thinking, that here we have this thing that blends all these historical or locations or whatever, and
Hmm.
we're expecting or we're concerned with or we're criticizing or we're interpreting all these things into, well, wait a second, either the cow or look, the car shouldn't be in Cantabria, it should be a horse. And why did one person decide that that car, it was fitting into the Cantabria part and not the Cuba part because it was in front or adjacent to the
Because
Casona?
yeah, probably,
But
probably because it was right there. It
but
looked like it was on the drive or driving up to it.
but that depends on your. So you see what I'm saying with the
I
problem?
do get you, but see, that's the thing about art, and it doesn't matter who creates the art. It's all open to interpretation, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong.
And that's the thing. It depends on
But
perspective.
mhm.
And go ahead, go ahead.
But my joke was, I don't know how healthy salt water is for that cow.
But didn't you make that choice that he's drinking the salt? What?
Yeah,
What? But do
because
you
that's what it looks like.
but do you but couldn't he just see? Here's the thing.
Yeah, he could have been just nosing and sniffing an oyster, but there was no indication of an oyster there. So it looked like he was drinking salt water, and I thought, well, that's odd.
You see how both things can be.
Even odder, I still have never seen a cow on the beach.
Yeah, but you've also never seen a cow in a transition image from Cuba with flowers into Miami with the ocean being this close to each other and and just the first, okay,
I
logic,
think I saw a postcard like that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
but
kidding.
the first logical thing. But
Hmm.
you see you see by exploring what people have offered were offered in that thing,
Dude,
by exploring, the first obvious thing is that the image is not a photograph taken somewhere.
right, understood all that, but
It's a
you're putting a lot more thought into this than I ever did. Because, I'm going to be honest with you. I read what you said, I saw how the image related to all of it. And I still think it's very good. And then I moved on. I left my little cheeky comment and I moved on. And
right,
that
but
was it.
do you know why I'm exploring this? It's not because of, okay, so it's a jump off point, not for the thing. Like, I understand people are going to interpret things the way they
Hmm.
interpret it. I understand that already. Like an image, and people like one image and maybe don't like another, or maybe they don't like a part of it.
Hmm.
Like, I understand that. Or they take a selfie and they might not like that happens to me a lot. Like, oh, I don't like the way I look at this picture. And so I understand that whole world, but this is an excuse as a jump off point to how AI or the consequences of a human being or human beings interpreting the world internally through language and the expectations that we have of what AI is and does, and other people's interpretation of what they see in front. So, in other words, um, the point of me exploring this or going in this deep direction, if it could be called that, is that here I sit explaining this, you interacting with me and Jim and the whole back and forth, and we are different windows observing things that happen outside of us, such as AI, and interpreting it from our own points of views. And in that little those little differences that you might have or that I might have, naming a biplane that's sepia tone in an image, um, and the feelings we might get from that, like maybe, man, this image is really cool, or might say, and that's dorky, or who knows
Hmm.
what. Um, all those critiques are happening in here, bouncing off each other when we express them, and there's a tension between what we think is correct, error free, error prone. There's a gradient of how much we tolerate and don't, independent of each other, while still working with each other in the world and there's a constant tension of that. So when an AI, like what Jim said, he wanted to distinguish, it looks like, humanity from this thing isn't thinking and this thing isn't that. That's something that's happening in not only his mind but many people's minds, because there's a threat going on, and that's kind of what I'm trying to explore, the threat we face, because I think there's a threat, with our natural inclinations to view things from our perspective without the perspective of others a lot of times, and the confusion of all that. Um, AI, is it a threat? I think it is in many ways. Is it a tool for benefit? I think it is in many ways too. But unlike, uh, what was it, a painting?
Hmm.
That tool is a little bit more, let's call it humble and contained, whereas this tool has, which we have not explored, or we have in the past in some ways, has other implications that affect everybody. Um, so yeah, I'm concerned, but at the same time, I'm not stopping using it, and that's the problem, or that's a concern.
Well, I apologize for getting you hooked on Copilot.
You did. You opened up the door.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's all my fault. What can I say? I really didn't know that you would dive into AI this deep, or start, or use it as much as you do, because I'll be honest with you. I think I've used Copilot twice, and I showed you an AI website that would touch up pictures
I
and get
remember.
rid of scratches and stuff like that.
I remember.
That is, and then I have a program called Vista Sculpt. It's a program that will take an image and create a 3D model out of it, or 2D vectors. And it has a built in AI. That is the extent to my use of AI. I used Copilot once to get an image of a car. It worked very well. I was very happy with that image. And that's it. I used Copilot to do that, and then I haven't been back.
And what does what? Why are you saying that?
Just basically because you have put a lot more time into using the AI than I have. And I didn't realize that you were going to do that when I started bringing it up. I thought maybe it might be a tool to help you with your genealogical research, because maybe it had access to things you hadn't thought of, or maybe it knew of websites that you hadn't considered. But that was about it. I didn't know you were going to get into philosophical discussions with it.
At first, I
Mm-hmm.
used it like an extension of Google search,
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought you would do.
but then I realized at some point
Mm-hmm.
that, well, like Google search, it offers links
Mm-hmm.
to evidence whatever the heck I'm searching.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike Google search, it's talking to me. And the dressing, the so the skeleton of it is ones and zeros.
Mm-hmm.
What's under the hood is just, computer language, and it's drawing and synthesizing all these things that
Yeah.
are out on the web and whatever it's been trained,
Yeah.
um,
Whatever it's been fed. Yeah.
whatever books and just all that stuff. And but covering that, the skin of that, is an interface that's like a human being
Mm-hmm.
in terms of communication. So it's narrowing. We can call it narrowing. No, it's creating warmth um, in its delivery of information. And what do I mean by what am I defining warmth? A simulated human interaction.
Right, which is, yeah, and that's inferred by the name artificial intelligence. And in fact, that defines a true AI in that you can have a discussion with it and not know you're talking to a computer. That defines a good AI.
So once that started, I said, well, let me talk to it like a human. Now, I know what's behind it,
Mhm.
and what it's drawing from is, compared to my access, endless. But it's answering me as if we had this brainiac standing there,
Mhm.
or in the same room, and we're interacting with it. And by the way, this question over error. If humans contain error, and everything that's produced on Earth mechanically, computers have errors, sometimes they
Mhm.
shut down, so too will AI, because everything that's produced from humans contains, they can break down, things can break down. So everything is applicable in terms of the source is humans, and humans are fallible and create
Mhm.
error. It can be the same with a space shuttle or a satellite, um, experiments in a lab. So, in this sense, there's no need to isolate AI as, aha, gotcha, it has error, because by default, all things produced. Now, the error would be in us forgetting ourselves and thinking that it's human, um, um, and not knowing that, and then not. So, even if,
Well,
go ahead.
there's a general mistrust of AI around the world. You know, there's still a percentage of the population that thinks it's going to take over the world tomorrow and we're all going to be dead. So, putting those people aside, as well as the people who know absolutely nothing about AI, don't use it, don't know anything about it, don't have an online presence, putting those people aside, I think you have the majority of us who are either experimenting with it or using it in some limited way. And then there's a percentage of people who are heavy into it and using the heck out of it. And there's another percent that just don't care. Not interested, never will be, don't give a damn. So, forgetting that it isn't human, I can see how that could be. I can see how that could happen because it can be good. But again, it's also depending upon what you're looking for. If you're looking specifically for an image, you want it to create an image, then you can put it however you want to. But I think what people, when they refer to an error, the trees floating in midair, that's an error because we all know trees don't float in the air. If you're asking for an impressionist painting or a surrealist painting, then all that goes out the window. Trees sure can be in the air. They can grow sideways,
The
you
problem is,
know.
the problem is, if you don't prompt. So imagine,
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. If you don't prompt it for certain things, then you could end up with anything, and then you try again and refine your prompt and keep going.
the thing that I will
But
say is, go
but
ahead.
to finish up my point is forget about the trees in the air. An AI doesn't know that all tires are round. So if that car that people assumed was in Cantabria had square wheels or triangular shaped wheels, that's an error because cars don't have that. There's a thing called reality. Unless you're asking it for something surrealist, in which case, we're at the window again.
Okay, I'll just say, and I know that this is problematic. Like I know it. This certainty um, of reality, um, using consensus is is highly unlikely, depending on what you're measuring it with. So, what I mean by that, if I were to ask you, let's say you're Mark, but like let's say in this case, instead of me asking AI, I'm asking you, and you're a representative of AI, figuratively speaking, in that I'm gonna consult with Mark's universe, and I ask you, Mark, produce for me a sepia tone with whatever tools you have, a sepia toned airplane, and like let's say that's my prompt. I don't go further into it. Like that's what my what I'm asking you to do.
Mm-hmm.
You and I, as with everybody else here in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
the world, but even that we have to be careful. Let's say everybody that speaks English, because we're using that language as a buffer,
Right.
will generally expect from you, however that it'll look in the variations,
Mm-hmm.
a sepia tone, an airplane in a sepia tone picture.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that Mark in your universe maybe had it not in the air, maybe it's waiting on the runway,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you decided that it's some other thing,
Right.
but you're still arriving at a sepia tone airplane that most human beings. This is sort of your argument. I'm taking off with it a little bit. That most human beings would consider within the margins of what you're suggesting that reality is.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: two things. One, if you asked Salvador Dali to do that, and that's an outlier,
Yeah, because I'm not asking Salvador Dali, and you're not either. You're asking me.
but it's this is a crucial. I'm installing Dali for a crucial point with reason for a
Okay,
purpose.
get okay.
Um, the reason I installed Dali is that even though he's a outlier, because he's got all his psychedelic whatever, if we compare, then he's still a human. He knows you're asking. I'm asking for sepia tone airplane, but he might say, oh, "We're gonna go wild with this, buddy." In spite of my suggestion, and in spite of our common link of what a sepia tone airplane would be, there's people that have variations. Now, with that said, an AI in the place of you or Dolly is obviously not organic. So
Mm-hmm.
this is your argument rephrased by me and expanded in different ways.
Okay.
It's not organic. It's not the common man impression of what things are in reality, and it's not even a Salvador Dali, which is an outlier. It's beyond. in certain terms. What humanity constructs of its world, this reality, it's beyond what a Dali constructs of this world in their reality. It's a expansive collection of what humans have produced already, and it requires, as you explained, a prompt. But here's the thing: a prompt, if you say create a sepia tone airplane, what's reasonable for you as a human, me, and everybody else, as you, this is your argument but expanded. For it, everything else that doesn't exist or that's not included in the prompt, why isn't it fair game? You,
Okay.
your prompt has to create the buffer
Right.
in order to direct this artificial
Okay.
intelligence.
I get it. But you asked for an sepia tone image of an airplane. I know an airplane has wings. I know an airplane has a tail in the back. I'm not going to put that tail in the middle of the windshield. I'm not going to put an airplane at 37,000 feet with no wings on it. And an AI will do that.
Could.
Because an AI doesn't know what an airplane is. It takes its data set and takes all these parts and puts them together. I mean, I've got images that I tried to create in AI, and I asked for specific vehicles. I've done it all on cars because they're real easy to recognize. And the car was okay in the foreground, but in the background, you had two-wheeled cars. You had cars that had no wheels. You had cars that had two front ends. Because all it knows is these are the shapes that make up a car. It didn't know how to put them together right. So that's a factual error. Because I asked for a 57 Chevy. Having multiple vehicles in the back that were just collections of parts, that is an error.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you in this way. Again, if I asked Mark Lindsay to produce a '57 Chevy with whatever tools he has, he could use
Yeah.
it. He could cut out like a magazine photo
Mm-hmm.
image of a, or he wants to paint it. Like just like let's say,
Mm-hmm.
um, you will produce something that at least, depending on how skilled or not, whatever the case,
Mm-hmm.
that at least chances are will look
Looks like a blob, but yeah.
will look within the
Mm-hmm.
the the buffer zone,
Mm-hmm. I'll do the best I can.
right? So that, to the point where I'll be able to sort of like identify. No, even like
Mm-hmm.
let's say you go with a
You can
cutout,
recognize it, yeah.
like or even if you take a picture, like oh, there's one on the street at some sort of, and you say
Mm-hmm.
here you go, Eloy, this is what your request was. So, but what's happening here? Allow me this because I think this is going to be crucial, at least from my point, at least from my point of view, and that's the case, isn't it? Um, when Mark Lindsay was born, when I love how I use like in third person. When you were for some reason when you were born,
Yeah,
it's just at this point when
I'm just this guy. Go ahead.
when you were born,
I was pretty young at the time, but go ahead.
fairly young at the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, your mind
Mm-hmm.
didn't at that point contain all the reference points you have currently right now
Oh, hell no.
in terms of everything.
Mm-hmm.
At best, at the beginning, you identified mom and dad and their roles. Like you knew you were connected. Like all these things started to consciously connect. You saw the cartoons on the TV.
Eventually, yeah.
Well, all that started to form because you started to see the
Yeah.
surroundings, and then as you grew, um, your reference points started to expand beyond um, your immediate or the TV or radio, like, and then you started to make connections, and you started to see other people's behaviors, your own behavior
Okay.
eventually started to come into play.
Yeah. Where are you going with this? I get it. Yeah.
Um, what I'm going with this is that you start from a blank page and then
Hmm.
you evolve into a mapping of what
Right.
things mean,
Hmm.
what things mean, what the definition of things like a 57 Chevy are, the
Hmm.
color availability, the color choice that you prefer. By the time you reach Mark Lindsay today, you have a better um,
Hmm.
palette to
Yeah.
offer me if I ask you, Mark, produce a 57 Chevy. But
Hmm.
if I asked Mark Lindsay as a kid, that would be a tall order and difficult. So what I'm saying is the following: AI, in that term, putting to the side that it's not a human,
Hmm.
that it doesn't have consciousness like you or I, it's collecting from the world around it,
Hmm.
that it's been data fed, and of humanity. Which,
Yeah.
think of it as a baby in terms of it producing um, images um, at the level of technology that we're at now. Um,
Okay. And I can agree with that to some point. But even babies need to be corrected when they make an error.
oh yeah,
You don't slam your cup on the table, you
sure.
know.
But the problem
And
with go ahead.
so that's my point. You have to first acknowledge it's an error before you can teach proper. And that's why they call this machine learning,
Right,
because it has to learn what this stuff is.
right.
But it can't learn and get better unless an error is acknowledged. That's my point. And
The,
that's what refining the prompt is it's basically corrections. You're removing the errors, you know. If you asked for Cantabria to Cuba to Miami and it gave you Tokyo in between, that's an error. Now we need to refine that prompt or do something to get rid of Tokyo and bring Cuba into the mix, you know?
yeah,
So that's where I was going with all of this. But you have to acknowledge an error when it's there. And the way you correct the error is number one, you see it, you acknowledge it, then you refine the prompt to eliminate that error.
I'm just suggesting. I agree with that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just suggesting that the error is not only the the AI. The error is in your expectations
Well,
and and your interpretation. In other words,
well,
you as a person have fixed ideas
yeah, on
that
certain things.
on a bunch of things,
Mm-hmm.
and all these ideas you have are not universal.
Oh, I understand that, and that's why that's I preface this. Well, I didn't preface it. I added to it when I said all art is open to interpretation.
And that's
So
true.
no, I know that my preconceived notions and my ideas are not universal. That's a given.
Yes, or it
But
should.
but even I know semi trucks don't fly.
But the idea of you imposing that semi trucks don't fly is your scaffolding, your framing.
Well, no, that's reality. There's a thing called gravity.
What I'm suggesting is that even that you just said,
Hmm.
it's all okay. It's all contextual.
Agreed.
If
100% agreed.
if you think of the album from not Led Zeppelin but Def Leppard,
Hmm.
I think it was called High and Dry,
Okay.
and in it, or not High and Dry, there was another one where it had a truck, a semi,
Hmm.
flying through the air. they intended that image to look the way it did. Or maybe they
Mm-hmm.
paid the artist and the artist said, "How about
Mm-hmm.
this?" Because it showed
Right.
people were on the road and this and that. Um, Nobody said to that artist, or that I'm aware of, but let's say just as a thing, "Hey man, semi trucks don't fly. Are you screwed in the
But
head?"
they had context
Exactly.
right there. It's an album cover.
Exactly.
But you can't deny that semi trucks don't fly. You can't deny that. Now, an artist can represent that all he wants to. But we know in context with if he's painting a truck, he can put it anywhere. He can put it out in the middle of the ocean. And that's fine because that's art. And that's one of the things that defines my art. And when you, at least I do, when I look at art, I have to suspend reality for a minute. Whereas it's easy for me to accept Guardians of the Galaxy. You got a talking tree and you got a raccoon that flies spaceships. I can suspend reality and I can get into that. My problem isn't so much with artistic representation, an artistic license, if you will. That's not my issue. My issue is the what's the best way to put this? My issue is the errors in assumption. Now, you keep using a word, expectation. I don't like expectations. I believe expectations are preconceived resentments because very few things will ever meet your expectations. Very few.
Did you just do something right now?
Yeah, I said talked about assumptions, but don't set that aside for
Okay.
just a
Okay.
second, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Expectations, I think, are flaws in us. It's human, just like any other emotion. But I have to look at certain things. This is me. I have to look at certain things a little bit differently, and I have to try to keep my expectations low. I have to
I love it. I love it.
because I truly believe expectations are preconceived resentments.
I love
Because if it doesn't turn out how I want it, then I'm going to resent it.
it.
So I try to keep that expectation low. If I say to somebody, I'll meet you at 2 o'clock, I used to get all cheesed off if they showed up at 2:10. My expectation was be there on time because that was drilled into me as a child.
Can I just
Go ahead. What do you like? What? Go ahead.
don't get upset because I'm gonna. I just when you said that,
Hmm.
the image that popped up is a saying that you haven't said in a long time. It
What's
has
that?
with rain and such. But continue.
Yeah. Well, and that's a joke that I use to kind of explain it
In a fun.
in a locker room
Yeah.
filthy way
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that guys understand.
Yeah. No.
You
It
know.
was, continue.
Well, but it defines it, doesn't it?
That's why it popped into my head because when you said the
I
expectation thing, it just.
and now the people that are listening go, what the hell are they talking about? Well, another day maybe. But my point in all of this is if I ask even an AI for something, I expect at least a close representation of it. Now, I will admit it is getting better, but I understand machine learning. It's learning as it goes. And it also is going to learn me the way I ask for something because I'm going to use words that may be different than the way you would ask it something. So it's going to learn me and respond in a way it thinks I'm going to understand a little bit easier, you know? So I get that. I understand that. But, and I'm using various different examples of this. If I ask for a recipe for rye bread and it tells me to put a quart of gasoline in the mixing bowl, that's an error. That's just an error. And there's 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 no doubt about that. So what I have to do is figure out how to overcome that error. I guess that's one of the things that cheesed me off because I just went on a 5 minute diatribe about low expectations, right? Well, if I ask for a recipe for rye bread, my expectation is a recipe for rye bread and for it to be correct or at least be open to interpretation. Maybe you like caraway seeds in your rye bread and maybe I don't, or vice versa. But that's something that we can, we can negotiate that. We can work on that. And I can work with that. But I can't work with something that gets crazy away from reality like that. Unless I'm asking for something that's crazy away from reality. If I ask it for a photorealistic image, I'm being specific, a photorealistic image of a Peterbilt truck, I expect a photorealistic image of a Peterbilt truck. I didn't specify the color. I'm willing to accept whatever it wants to make it. If I ask for a Peterbilt truck flying through the air, then I have suspended reality right off the bat because I know Peterbilts don't fly. I'm asking it to make it fly. Now we're in the world of fiction or fantasy, however you want to put it. Different story entirely.
So the examples you gave,
Mm-hmm.
you entered into the world of language with AI, which is a departure from this image world. And we asked Copilot a few episodes ago, what's the difference between language and image? Why we asked it what's the difference, or something to that effect, and why is there such inaccuracy? We did that live on air when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to images, and then it explained this that we're talking about. But then it contrasted with language, where language has much more. I guess what it said was something to the effect of it's descriptive and contextual in ways that imagery is more elusive for AI. Um, so there's a difference going on there, but
Sure.
you just suggested something with rye bread and this and that. Now, I would say that I've not tested, let's say, enough imagery
Mm-hmm.
um, at a base level of, like, just show me a 57 Chevy and it's produced a helicopter. I've
Mm-hmm.
not seen it do that.
Yeah.
What I've seen happen is, so far, and I've only done it for a couple of days. Honestly, I've not the whole art thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've not used it for that until just these couple of
Just
days.
recently, yeah.
Like recently, like in the last few days,
Mm-hmm.
for the first time. I mean, I have in the past uploaded and repaired photos, but
Yeah.
not through like my heritage or whatever. But anyways, the point
Yeah.
is that all I've noticed is, for my prompts to see what it comes up with,
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking complicated, multi-layered um, productions in terms of. So, for instance, that one painting with Cantabria, Cuba, and
Yeah.
Miami, um, and blend it all in. Um, that's that's not a straightforward, like, a '57 Chevy. That's more. Now we're dealing with a little bit of imagination, this and that, and once that window opens, it's pulling from all these things that it might have out in the world, the internet
Yeah.
or whatever. The variables that are available to that can produce some wild things, because
Right.
I would have to sort of sit there and work at it and work at it. But I've not yet asked
Well,
it for a simple picture and it
well,
bring me something totally different. Now, the second part. Well, go ahead. You have something to say.
well, I was going to say that's the nature of AI because you could take that absolute, that you could take that exact same prompt. You could just copy that text, paste it into the AI again, and you're going to get different results.
Or the same one.
Yeah, or completely different ones. Because there, it's forever changing, and I don't know which AI you're using. Okay,
I tried. I'm trying Gemini.
okay. Does it limit the number of photos it'll produce?
There is some sort of limit, but for my
But
purposes, I don't even. It
okay,
doesn't matter.
the one I was looking at, the one I was using, would give you four images at one time. And then you go through and say, I like that one. I want to keep that one. And now throw the rest of them away. Save that one and then put the same prompt in, and it would give me four different images.
Yeah, go to Gemini,
Hmm.
which is Google. If you
Hmm.
click on the little thing where it has your Google
Yeah,
Doc.
it's asked me several times if I want to use Gemini. I've just, no, not, no. I want to know if the sandwich shop is open at 4 o'clock in
Well,
the
let
afternoon.
me just mention this. Where
Yeah.
that little drop down is on Google,
Uh-huh.
that it opens up and you have Google Docs, Google this, that, and that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's that option for Gemini. When clicking on that, it
Hmm.
opens up their AI. You
Yeah.
could drop images there, create prompts, and this and that. So it's basically um,
Okay.
Google's version of ChatGPT or Microsoft's Copilot, except that they allow images. No, it's just
Hmm.
part of Google now.
Yeah.
It's different than when you search on Google and it has that
Yeah.
little enhanced AI thing. No, this is actually a dedicated thing, um, and you could test out to see how that differs. But um, I've not tried that sort of thing, like just flat out, hey,
Yeah.
show me a mountain and that's it, or show me
Yeah.
a green mountain and then it produces. I've not tried that. I've done sort of like a weird
Hmm.
variation. Your expectation thing. Um, you try not to. You mentioned, and I know there's more to it than that, but
Hmm.
you explained it. You try not to like lean on this thing of called expectation
Hmm.
because usually expectations are meant
Yeah.
to be um, pro-
Premeditated resentments.
present um, all that definition that you produced through your experience. Um, it's all coming from your lens, not mine or Jim's or anybody around the world, which
Yeah.
may which may overlap with your definition of it or not, depending on their different
Yeah,
position.
we all perceive things differently. I agree with that, and we're all going to interpret things differently,
But let me
and
further
I'm not denying that.
but let me further this.
Hmm.
When you explained the situation with expectation,
Hmm.
I understood your point because there's bridges that I can relate to as human beings where if you have expectations, you're expect it's only waiting on just another turn for elements that are outside of your control
Hmm.
opt to do something that totally flips the script and screws everything up and whatever.
Yeah.
All these things that humans can sort of relate to. Like another person might say, "Nah, I don't see it at all," and another person might differ. Anyway, so I understood that, but I also carry a secondary definition, various ones, of expectation. The context you brought and honed in on your
Hmm.
eye of raw is one, and I understood it. But the other one is this: we expect um, a sort of, I want to call it just a cycle of stability in the world around us to one degree or the other. We expect the toothbrush to be in the same spot we left it. We expect the processes of tangible things
Hmm.
to be where, unless, and then if it's not in the same place, we might assume that maybe we forgot and moved it or somebody moved it against our own wishes. Just all those things. But we also have certain expectations that even though all that you said is true, I don't expect Mark Lindsay to change his character
No, exactly.
wildly from one moment or the like. There are expectations in
Right.
the world. There, but my expectations of Mark Lindsay
Hmm.
are based on the context of our our
Our
relation
past, yeah.
throughout time,
Hmm.
and the reoccurring station in which you
Sure.
work with. But even that station in which Mark Lindsay works, or I work in, Jim Dockrell, Steve Nealon, Linda, just all of us, Al Forte, just everybody. Um, did you see how I name dropped? Um,
Yeah.
all, all those that stability that I expect from you within a range. I do expect you to get pissed if things go in one direction, and I do expect you to be, you know, all right, just go with the flow if the situation. But I expect a range
Hmm.
depending on the context that surrounds the
Sure.
situation. If all of a sudden, someone we knew, it was found that they have 15 bodies were buried in the basement of this.
In the back, yeah.
That would completely blow our freaking brain. So
Right.
what I'm saying is
But
this: we do have expectations, even though there's a degrees of those.
they also have to be balanced with acknowledging and accepting the fact that there are things that are completely and totally out of your control.
Yeah,
That things just happen. Things
yeah,
happen. My
I,
power could go out right now.
yeah.
Things happen. That's not an expectation. And don't take me literally. You hear? Broadcast gods. So,
You just pulled a number.
yeah, really. What really would have been funny is if I shut my computer off right now. No, um, and that's part of lowering those expectations. Expectations are fine to have if you acknowledge that if you acknowledge and you accept that very little of what happens in the world is within your control. I can control what's around me to a limited extent. I have another person living with me. We don't play practical jokes on one another. We don't do that kind of stuff to each other. I leave her stuff alone. She leaves my stuff alone. If we need to move something, we move it together. That way, she knows where it went and I know where it went. So, I do spend a lot of time walking around going, where is the hell is that? Because I don't remember where I put it.
Right.
But that's beside the point. We can control our environments here. The minute we walk outside those doors, we can't control a single thing. I can have all the expectations in the world of her and I getting in the car and going up to Crater Lake. I can't control traffic. I can't control weather. So if we get halfway there and we blow a tire and get that fixed and then get up there and find that the road is closed because of snow, I can't control that. I have to be able to accept it. So that's that balance. You expect a certain behavior of me. I I don't expect a certain behavior from you as because I knew you were going to do something like that the minute I said that. See, expectations. But then again,
You see? No, but
completely and totally out of my control, so I have to accept it and
no,
drive on.
no, but you do expect some.
No, because I know there's again, like you said, there is a range.
Yeah, but that I didn't do that because I am.
Now, I recognize patterns. There are certain things you're going to do because it's a pattern.
Right.
You tend to rub your eye a lot.
No, I don't. How dare you? Do I?
Yes. Yeah, you rub your eye a lot.
Did I do it today?
Just once so far.
Holy smoke!
But there are times, man, where you're back there and I mean, you're into it. Like, you ever scratch that one spot on a dog and all of a sudden the leg goes crazy? I mean, you are into, oh my God, you know. And I think, is he going to grind that sucker out of his head or what? But, see, but, you know, you may show up one day in a green shirt and you may show up the next day in a yellow shirt. I don't have any expectations. I don't know if you're going to have a beard. I don't know if you're going to be clean shaven. I don't have any expectations. So, you know, it's just us.
But there is some.
Well, I kind of expect you'll at least have clothes on.
You expect you expect me
But
to arrive.
well, no, I hope you arrive. See, an expectation and hope are two different things.
I don't know.
Just as I'm sure you hope I arrive. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but so look. I think that it's reasonable that to say. I think it's sound and reasonable
Mhm.
to say that there are contingent expectations.
Yeah. Sure, there are. But, you know, if one of us has ever had a problem and, like, dude, I really can't do the podcast tonight because of this, that, or the other, neither one of us have ever gone off on a rant about it. 15 years ago, I might have. So, you know, that's what it's. Greg says he also has a thing for red solo cups. Hey.
But you see what everybody here. But notice what you picked out with me rubbing my eyes, Greg
Hmm.
with the solo. These observations.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, I can recognize that I have
Hmm.
rubbed my eye, but the fact that you single it out, or the red solo cup, I do know I have a red solo cup, but
Hmm.
you're signaling it out is a function of your perceptions
Hmm.
coming from your lenses towards
Hmm.
me.
Yeah, it's just pattern recognition. I'm going to drink a lot out of this cup. And when that runs out, I'm going to switch over to this glass. I'm going to smoke like a freight train, probably like people you know or have known in your life. And we're going to have some weird conversations like this one right now. So, yeah, there are patterns. But that's just, I think, pattern recognition. That to me, that's not an expectation. Because and that kind of expectation kind of flies in the face of what we're due here, because we're not scripted. We don't even know if we're going to have a topic to talk about, so it's 100% impromptu. Well, how can you have expectations over something that's impromptu? You've got to be open.
I'm going to share the screen.
Okay.
That's okay.
Sure.
Ooh, that's not the right button. Share screen. Um, a window. There we go. That one. I'm going to share that one. Tell me if you can see it.
Well, all right, let me add it to the scene. Shaboom.
You can see it now, right?
Mm-hmm. Who is that dapper individual?
That stunning Miami Vice looking person, you
Mm-hmm.
would assume, or I would. So what I did is this was one of the tests from yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I took a photo of me,
Mm-hmm.
just like the profile of the head.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because it it, it, it it perfectly put my stomach in right proportions for some reason, without me prompting it. I took my head and I said, please
Mm-hmm.
create, insert this face into a scene, um, of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up taking my head from that
Mm-hmm.
photo,
Yeah.
putting a hat on me and a whole
Mm-hmm.
body with the paunch and everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? In a Miami Beach, South Beach section
Mm-hmm.
of Miami with the Art Deco-ish era buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. So, well, here's so it took my head with my what you call
Your
side,
sideburns, yeah.
um, and it transformed my body, punch and everything, into. I mean, even the shoes, the penny loafers without the, um, it basically inserted me into this world. And now here's the thing: I recognize myself there.
Yeah.
I recognize Miami there,
Mm-hmm.
or Miami Beach. I
Yeah.
recognize the scene,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. It wasn't so it wasn't captured as a photograph.
No.
It was compiled
Mm-hmm.
into a scene, and the prompt was just a simple one.
Mm-hmm.
So now exists an image of me,
Right.
which I identify as me, in a place that looks like Miami Beach, but
Mm-hmm.
this place doesn't, other than in this photo,
Yeah.
this does not exist.
Yeah. There's no reality there except for that face, and even then, it's been augmented.
And even then, it's been augmented in
Now,
order to fit it into whatever the heck, it deemed proper to do.
now let me ask you a couple questions. Did you ask for a specific time frame? Did you say in the 1970s or in the 1950s or in the 1960s? Not.
Nothing. I just asked it to
Okay.
fit fit this image,
Okay.
my face, into a scene of Miami. I didn't even say
Okay.
Miami Beach.
Okay. So when you look at that image, what time frame, what timeline do you get from it?
To be
Fifth,
honest with you,
what decade?
to be honest with you, even though it's got this old timey,
Mm-hmm.
60s um, car,
Mm-hmm.
um, it could be any time because the quality of the photo is like as if it were taken in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we do have some timey cars roaming around.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be anywhere from the 50s all the way to today because people
Okay.
wear this type of Panama thing
Mm-hmm.
on the beach all the time. So,
Now, um, zoom out all the way, please. That if you hadn't told me that that was Miami, I may or may not have got that from it. I there because I'm being serious here. There are areas of Honolulu that look like that or very similar to that, and it's got to do with the color scheme of the buildings. Is that kind of color? Is that common in Miami
it's
in certain
typical
areas?
it's typical of Miami Beach.
Okay,
That's Art Deco,
okay,
Miami Beach. So,
okay.
from your perspective, you have a Hawaii reference.
Uh,
Um,
it, it could be interpreted as being in Hawaii because there are sections of Honolulu that do look like that. But generally speaking, there would be mountains in the background. That would be the main difference. Mountains or the ocean. And there are no, that the section of Honolulu that looks like that is nowhere near the ocean. Do you see any errors in that photo?
um, no, because my definition of error in the context of AI and
Hmm.
yours, as we've established,
Okay.
are not. But if we're going to define error
Hmm.
with with
Things there that don't belong.
okay, so here's the issue.
Hmm.
If if we think of don't belong, the whole thing, you can consider it an error because it's just a creation, out
Okay.
a generated thing. But if you think
Okay.
of like over here, the lettering on the building is so blurred
Yeah, you
that
can't tell what that says. Yeah.
we can't tell what it says. So if it weren't blurred and it
Hmm.
had a nonsensical word on it,
Yeah.
we would be able to assume that hey, in the real world,
Okay.
that's not something. But like if you look, you
Yeah.
can see it's got lamps on the sides.
Yeah.
The doorways look like it would be bikes sitting there. The coconut tree, palm tree. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I just here's the thing: the question of errors for me, I understand what you mean. Let's see what this is down here. I don't know what that might be, but whatever. Let me turn this off. So the issue
Well,
with the
there
question.
were, okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say too, can you bring it back up?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wait. Let me.
Because I want to talk about two things. Um, and one I would consider an error, but I understand it's open to interpretation, and this is 100% AI, and there's the only thing real about this is your face, and even that's been augmented.
Exactly.
Okay? I understand that. My error is that car doesn't exist. That is not a brand, maker, model that you can identify. That car does not exist. So, if you're a car nut, you would pick that out. If you were an architecture nut, you might pick out something about windows. I don't know. If you were, if you were really exploring something, you might say, "Oh, wait a minute, that's got to be this time frame because look at the color of the license plate on that car. It would have to be this, that, or the other." You know, so there are various little things in there that somebody in the know would nitpick about. But again, you're 100% correct. It's an AI creation.
Well, what do you see here? That point out everything that would direct you to say. I mean, just point the things out just to clarify what's going on with
Okay,
the vehicle
that big insignia on the trunk,
in the set.
while in the center of the trunk right there, that is either Oldsmobile, Pontiac, or excuse me, not Pontiac, Buick or Chevrolet, because they had that arrow, that wing shape pointing down in the center.
Okay.
None of the 40s, 50s, or 60s General Motors products had those tail lights.
Those are kind of weird, huh?
They're creative. They look cool.
But this, this, this,
The
this,
yeah,
this.
that tail light that doesn't exist.
Well, let me just say, this tail light with this
Hmm.
little thing going down,
Yeah.
that's not a feature from any cars, right?
Hmm.
That's a question for you.
It no, well, no, because they did do that kind of detail on some Chevys. Al is talking about looking at the hubcap, that red thing in the middle. He says he sees three shields, which is Buick. But I don't see three shields in it. Do you? I just see a red dot.
I see. Here's
I
the red
just.
dot. Here's
Mm-hmm.
the hubcap, and then here's three layers of the hubcap. But
Okay.
it looks like these two layers. This
Mm-hmm.
one's inside, and this
Okay.
one's the outer. It kind of looks like
Mm-hmm.
uh
Well, no,
you know.
the Buick insignia is like three
Oh, oh.
is three medieval shields. So, and and we can back out of there again. Oldsmobile had a big chrome in that wing on the center of the trunk again. Oldsmobile had a big chrome dish in the middle of that. So it's not, they're not portraying it to be an Oldsmobile, but it looks nice. I like it, but that there is no make, model, or brand that relates to that. The back bumper almost looks like the front bumper off of a 55 or 56 Chevy.
Would these be on back bumpers?
Yes, they're bumper. They yes, they can be.
So this is a not a single. It's a
No,
combination of whatever.
it could. Yeah, it's just a creation from within its own programming.
And how about this
Um,
hood or this yeah.
Greg says looks like a Kaiser or a Fraser. Um, I can see where you're coming from on that, but not with those insignias, Greg. That just that's 50s General Motors.
But
you
didn't
know.
but didn't um didn't what's this guy, the man in black,
Mhm.
Johnny Cash, build a car one part of
One
the
piece at a time, yes.
he said so.
One piece at a time. And I made allowances for customs because people have customized cars since there have been cars. And the 50s and 60s were the heyday of the custom car. I mean, there were some artists who went mad with metal and made cars that just should not exist,
So
you know.
let me ask you this.
But
So you identify then this as an error?
if I was a car nut going crazy, I would identify that as an error. But in the context of an AI created image, it looks good. So I accept it. I can suspend reality.
Okay, so well, the whole thing is not real.
Right, exactly. It's not
So
real.
so now I don't know that this is true, but I'm going to use what you just
Mhm.
explained with this, and and look at this, just this as an example. I don't know that this is true, but like an architect or someone that's deeply involved in Art Deco era studies, because of their architecture school and whatever,
Right.
they may do similar and say, well, windows that cross in this
Hmm.
section with this beam there, notice that there's no stucco or framing. There's just
Hmm.
this might be an error, and the little roofing over it
Well,
might.
yeah, the little roof should have a pitch to it so water doesn't collect there.
Funny enough, in Miami, a lot of them are flat for some reason, but
Are they really? Wow.
it's weird in some cases. But the point is, even that, like, let's say that you
Hmm.
just said, an architect type guy that's into or gal that's into such things might question that, or the windows themselves.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, in
and
fact, a shoemaker.
yeah,
That's
undoubtedly.
yeah. So here's the thing. Um, depending on
Yeah,
the context,
and
depending on the context, um, we can then point out errors, but
mhm.
we're referencing an error through context. If
Right,
it's
exactly.
posting and saying, "Look, this is what that is," and that's it. It's an
Hmm.
impression.
Right now, if you attempted to portray that as a photo, then there would be issues. Now,
Oh, look,
here's the other thing I was going to bring up. I said there was a second one there. If you and this is just my eyes. That's why I asked if you had any specific timeline that you asked for this photo to be. That looks like 1961, 62 Neil Sedaka.
who, me?
Yes, that whole picture. That would be a 1960, 61, 62 Neil Sedaka album cover.
Album cover?
And you, from this angle and from that distance, the minute you start zooming in, the illusion's gone. But from that distance, zoomed out look like that, you look like a young Neil Sedaka.
Well, I do.
And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, I just
No, no, I do love my calendar. I love my calendar girls. So that's interesting. So now, but you see that, so you see that you just offered. Um, that's coming from your mind,
my perspective. Yes.
your perspective, and so I can't reject it or anything other. I can only tell you that from my mind,
Hmm.
um, that wouldn't have popped up in my head. I mean, I'd have to see a comparable. But
Did anybody out there in the chat agree with me? Does anybody else see that?
can I
You
can I
know.
explain why this is important? Um, it might be that other people see Neil Sedaka because they have the reference point.
Hmm.
I do know who Neil Sedaka is, and I love his music, but I
Hmm.
never purchased an album of his. Although I do. But here's the thing: my reference point um, is different than that because it's coming from my point of view, and from my point of view, I'm seeing my space
Yeah.
inserted into a
Hmm.
Miami Beach scene
Yeah.
that I am familiar with, and a
Hmm.
dress or outfit
Hmm.
that is basically referencing. a Caribbean, uh,
Uh-huh.
sort of like casual.
Business casual. Yeah.
Right. So I'm seeing it from my perspective that way, whereas you popped up with Neil Sedaka album cover. So, but you see, AI
Hmm.
is compiling the whole thing out of impressions it draws from depending on the prompt. So all I'm getting at here with that you just explained
Hmm.
is, um, perspectives vary, but there's overlap. We
Now,
can recognize it's a hat,
hmm,
right? We can even recognize it's me, although it messed up my eyes, like it's shrunk, or maybe I don't know.
that's
Um,
the one that you rub a lot. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to bring that back, man.
it got my chin or my chins, uh,
Uh-huh.
the two moons of Endor. Um,
Uh, the
it's
two
thick as
moons
my
of
lips. I
Endor.
have way thinner lips than that. Um, you know, these aren't even my hands.
Well, of course they're not.
Because all I gave it was this face. You see what I'm
No,
saying?
but at least it gave you the correct number of fingers.
I clicked by mistake. This was another one.
Hmm.
I asked it for a
See, now that don't look like you at all.
I asked it for a Casablanca image.
That now it does. Now it looks like you, and I recognize that the face. I know which picture you took that from, but when you zoom back out, it looks nothing like you, to me.
Well, because I'm a Casablanca guy now.
That looks nothing. That there's nothing there that says Eloy, not a thing,
Well,
and
um,
until you zoom in.
well, here I asked it for an AI Casablanca theme,
Uh huh.
and this is what it gave me. But notice, the whole thing is made up.
Yeah,
A guy with a piano,
I get that.
you know.
I get that.
But I mean, it's for what it is. It's not bad. Look, it's outside. The stains or smudges on the window and this and that. Let me see which
Yeah.
other. Look at this one.
Oh, blame it on the bellboy.
I asked it for a Wes Anderson, um, movie thing, and it gave me the Budapest Hotel.
The Grand Budapest Hotel,
Yeah,
one of Linda's favorite movies.
it's such a great.
I had to track down. Uh, Al said that was Billy Joel in the background.
Oh, with piano.
Yeah, I had to track down that video, that movie on DVD for Linda because she loves it so much.
It's such a great. I mean, his
One of
movies
her
are so
films.
cool.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so the tangent gone off on.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, understood. It is it when you put it, and that's one of the reasons I said what I said in my comment. Without context, it's just another pretty picture. So you have to have some sort of context there. And when you said, okay, this is an AI image of me in a Miami Beach scene, you just gave it the face. I can suspend reality. I can suspend belief and take in everything, unless there's something glaringly wrong. You know,
but
if the palm trees were all a foot in the air,
but it didn't.
you
It
know.
didn't do that with
But
that.
no, it didn't do that.
But again, I don't have the experience. I only have a couple of days messing
Sure.
with it. But when I get complex, meaning add the three different,
Oh yeah.
like Cantabria, Cuba, and then like or Miami. When doing that,
It has to invent stuff. Yeah.
now you're opening up a bigger like situation where there's so
Hmm.
many elements that are possible.
Yeah.
Why not stick a cow drinking water, or if it were my interpretation, to
Well,
correct for that
well,
assumption, you
well.
know.
That's my point. That was my overall point. Was the AI doesn't know that a cow on the beach is a bit out of place.
It doesn't have to be. Can have there never been cows on the beach?
Oh, I'm sure some of them have been on the beach, but it's not what you would find in Miami. Probably not Cuba either, because If you've been around cattle at all, you know that they are going to destroy things and hurt themselves. That's their two main jobs: destroy things and hurt themselves.
Yeah,
That's why they're kept penned up.
but
So,
you're saying that if you think of a hierarchy of like
mhm.
drop down windows, um,
I'm
uh,
sorry, but I'm that guy. I
yeah,
am that guy. My daughter used to, she hated to watch anything that had to do with helicopters or the military with Linda and I because we would sit there and pick out every single mistake that they made. I'm that
but
guy. I'm sorry.
but there's still, and that's your interpretation. But here's my point. If you open up the little windows that cascade down, the first one is the one you're not attributing, and you're going to. How can you expect reason, logic towards a connected reality as you'd expect it, when the image itself, the premise of it, starts off with three continental or three locations across the world that are blending with it from the get go? It's already
I,
an impossible image.
I get what you're saying. I really get what you're saying.
That's
But,
tier number
but,
one.
but the uh, the AI knew how to separate them and differentiate, hence the flowers. The flowers acted as a border that kind of divided the two corners. It acted as that dividing line and it kind of blended everything together. And I
You
think it did it pretty good. I think
you
it
gave
did.
it that, but you gave it that context.
But I also understand it's not a photograph.
Right.
So there is artistic license involved.
The whole thing is
My whole joke was about a cow drinking salt water. It can't be good for him. I don't think anybody would deny that.
it's
It was a joke.
nobody would deny that drinking salt water, whether it's a cow or a human or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Anything.
is a good thing. But what you inserted that is not necessarily, if we follow your logic,
Mm-hmm.
within the context of a picture that's already a blending, and we look for reality in it, with the cow situation, why must it follow that the cow is drinking? In other words, I can correct for the error in my mind because I know that the scene is an abstraction of sorts. You are adding meaning that the cow is drinking water, which is just as valid within the context. But it's not the only answer, is what I'm getting at. So the cow to you is drinking water more likely than not.
Because that's what it looks like.
I but it also looks to me. Oh, okay. Let's test that. Can it not just as well look? And you kind of agreed to it in the beginning,
Well, yeah, I said it could be sniffing an oyster, but there's no indication there's an oyster there.
but it doesn't have to even be an oyster. Eliminate the notice the element you added. It has to
Okay,
be.
eliminate the oyster.
Why can't it be on the shore and just sniffing the water?
Oh,
Or
it could be,
right, it could
but
be.
that's not what it looked like. That was my point. And that was the whole thing was a joke, dude.
No, I get it, but the
But you're overanalyzing the joke, and overanalyzing a joke is kind of like dissecting a frog. You don't really learn anything, and the frog dies.
no, okay. I understood that it was a joke. You were being playful, but from that, we're leaping into this idea of impressions from people and what we expect from AI, which
Mm-hmm.
which basically we're circling back to it is that we understand that
Mm-hmm.
this thing is not portraying reality as if you were somewhere taking a snapshot of a situation.
No, and I don't. I didn't. I didn't expect that to be.
Right. So these errors that like a coffee machine that produces, I think you said something that's gasoline or something. You had
Yeah.
explained earlier.
Uh huh.
Things like that um, are just it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is right now. And then that's and that was my whole point was until it improves to the point to where you don't have to suspend belief, I think we're safe. Now, if there'd have been a seagull right there and the cow with the cow down, I'd have thought maybe he was sniffing the seagull. What the hell is this thing? Or if the cow was looking up, I wouldn't have questioned a thing.
But maybe it's gonna maybe you'll never maybe it's gonna be. I don't know that this is true, but maybe it's gonna be like movies. No matter what movie you watch,
Hmm.
you have to suspend disbelief. And the art of movie making has existed since the early
I know. Believe me, I dove deep into cinematography.
but we view movies
Hmm.
culturally um, as stories that are valuable in spite of glaring
Hmm.
obvious. Number one, the characters many times don't
Yeah.
exist, and if they do
Well,
exist,
sure.
they're an impression of something that was written in a book, and so on and so forth.
But you know that going in. Did you ever see that movie Blue Thunder?
Um, I don't think so.
Roy Scheider,
I, I can't.
the L.A. police helicopter that had all these whiz bang gizmos and stuff like that.
Was it sort of like it was in the '80s, right?
Late 80s, early 90s, possibly.
It was like a helicopter theme, like it was a high
Yes.
tech. I can
Yeah.
recall. I think I can recall it, but yeah.
My daughter hated us because we picked that movie apart. We're both aircraft mechanics. So they would do little things, and we're like, nope, not possible. Nope. Like they put the helicopter into whisper mode so it made no noise. It was silent. Nope, not possible. You know, I mean, I can suspend belief. I can't suspend physics. I'm sorry, not possible. They pulled one cotter pin on one part of a engine of the aircraft that we worked on, a Bell Jet Ranger. They pulled one cotter pin, and later on they're showing this bolt coming loose. Could happen. They show the nut backing off and the bolt falling out, and all of a sudden the helicopter just started falling out of the sky. Nope, that was an engine governor that controls the speed. It's just not going to have anything to do with the controls. Nope, they just got that factually wrong. You know, it just so I am that. My point is, I am that guy. If something is being portrayed in a movie, I get it. It's fiction. I can. I'm with the raccoon flying the spaceship, the talking raccoon flying a spaceship, because I expect that going into a movie. What I don't expect is firefighters carrying rifles, you
Can I?
know?
Can I?
And we get back into expectations, I know.
You caught it. You caught it. That's great. I
Hmm.
love it
We
because
get back into it. But
you just flipped your previous thing to show that there are. Look, it has to be that you have expectations because you're a human being with your feet
mhm.
planted on earth. You
Well,
have to have some expectations.
but well, I didn't say I didn't have expectations. I said I tried to keep them low. But there is something that you can consider yourself an expert on, or at least have more an in-depth working knowledge of.
A little bit more probably in some
Right.
things. Yeah.
And if you see a glaring error that you know is absolutely not true, there's no way that could happen in the possible world. Does it ruin, say, a book or a movie for you?
It
It's like,
depends.
oh, come on.
It depends. It depends. Look, I'll tell you. When let me. This is good because I think you'll like this one too, and you're aware of it. Back in the '90s, the
Mhm.
Beatles decided to issue their Beatles anthology,
Yeah.
and they issued a huge, thick volume book,
Hmm.
and I bought it. And by the way, it was so freaking. I have it somewhere still. I gotta find it, but with it, they released three um, two CD sets
Uh-huh.
with their previously like terribly early like
Yeah.
patchy sounding
Not
songs.
not quite there. Yeah. Some of their demos.
Some are like cassette recorded back in the '60s,
Yeah.
early. like despite of all the dangers,
Yeah.
and old stuff that they never even and then it progresses and stuff. But part of the output of that was they were going to take a couple of songs and make that John Lennon had recorded on a cassette tape,
Yes.
and they cleaned it up and added instruments. So what
Hmm.
I'm getting at is that they took a cassette recording of John Lennon that he did not
Hmm.
expect likely for
Yeah.
the other Beatles to come together and
Hmm.
clean up and work around it to create a full song.
Yep. That was done after John Lennon's death, and the song was "Free as a Bird."
Free as a Bird, and the other one was Free as a Bird, and the other one was I love Free as a Bird. The other one was uh, whatever. There's two of them, but I remember Free as a
Hmm.
Bird more clearly.
Yeah.
But there were two. Let's just focus on Free as a Bird. Free as a bird. Oh, his voice on the cassette was all sorts of
Yeah.
mangled.
Warbly, very warbly. It was just him at the piano, and something happened with the cassette, and it was free, something like that.
So they worked around it, and I love the issue. I love the fact that they did what they did and the way they did it. I think it
Hmm.
was just fantastic, in my opinion, just mind blowing, fantastic. I love it. Um, However, there's an aspect of suspension of disbelief in that you're constant, or at least I am, every time I hear the song, constantly reminded, in my mind, with a reality out there, that John Lennon isn't actually, like, this production was manufactured.
Hmm. Yeah.
As beautiful as it is, and it was all the original Beatles,
Hmm.
it's still John Lennon's input was worked around,
Yes.
and so it's an impression in a sense of
Hmm.
what would have been if they had worked on the
Right.
song originally with John Lennon still alive.
Hmm.
Okay, this song represents a technological leap of
Hmm.
sort. Okay, putting that to so there's a sense of putting things into suspension of disbelief. But let's put that to the side and now move forward to like a couple of years ago or maybe last year, where the Beatles um, created this song around another old tune,
Hmm.
um, and they totally cleaned up John Lennon. I think it was even whatever it was. John Lennon was included. They cleaned up his vocals using AI,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that took care of all, or at least a lot of the issues that had plagued those old recordings earlier.
Hmm.
Now we have a situation where we have music
Hmm.
that's produced by the Beatles, remaining Beatles, but we're listening to something that's now influenced by AI technology, and we have when we listen to it, do we how much? It's hard for me to suspend disbelief in that respect because my reference point to the Beatles is back in the '60s and me
Right.
discovering it in the '80s,
Yeah.
not this new version.
Sanitized. Yeah.
So I have that kind of issue with that, and to the point. Last thing I'll say, Jamie Page sent us a song
Yep. He did.
which he inputted. Hey, this is Trampled Underfoot.
And I wasn't going to mention it because I think we're doing a disservice by not playing it. But if you want, if we can find a link to it, maybe Jamie can give us a direct link to the page, and we can put it over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page. Greg says, "Oh, it took 2 hours, but he got around to the Beatles."
All roads lead to Liverpool. All roads lead to Liverpool. Um,
I'll, I'll ask Jamie if he could give me a direct link, so that I can link it over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast
gave me a
Facebook page.
version of it.
Yeah, he PM'd it to me too. And it was good. It was real good. I'll give it that. It was real good. But some of it was a little bit scary. because, and that was my question to you, but we need to land the plane. Maybe we should talk about it next week after we get everything figured out. What I want to know is all of the information that was contained in the lyrics to that tune, did the almost none of that exists anywhere in text. It's all our voices. So either Jamie had to listen to all that and put it in the prompts, or that AI came back and referenced some of our old recordings.
It could be a little bit of that, or it could be that Jamie's prompt. So here's the thing, it's the same thing. I'll answer it with this. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing as your answer in past episodes when you say, it's the same thing as this. When I've mentioned to you and you've answered me, when I say, dude, isn't it funny? I keep seeing the same number everywhere. And you say, Eloy, if you think about the number, then you start seeing it everywhere. Well, I think it's similar to that in that
Mm-hmm.
we add the meaning and the context by hearing it. You say, well, that's they're talking about me. This song is talking about me. Well,
Well,
you know, go ahead. Go ahead.
when they mention us by name, I kind of know what they're talking about. When they say Eloy is this, this, and this, and Mark is this, this, and this, you kind of know who they're talking about. So,
Well, we do. Uh, Jamie Page, because I did have a talk with Jamie Page
oh, okay,
about it, and he did explain that he prompted it.
okay, all right,
So it worked around his prompt.
okay,
We're a podcast. It's Mark Lindsay. He lives in Oregon. It's Eloy. He lives in Miami. They talk about
okay,
life, the universe and everything. Like he gave it prompts.
mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that whatever his prompt would have been, which was probably less than a paragraph or a
Mm-hmm.
paragraph at best, um, the song created this whole, or the AI created this whole song
Mm-hmm.
that you and I can say, oh, that's Mark and Eloy.
Mm-hmm.
That's Mark and Eloy. But that, us judging that, we understand Jamie Page's intent, we
Mm-hmm.
understand the prompt, but how much of us is that referencing is what we decide in our minds. Because we could just the same say, it's just a mechanical impression and this and that. But when I listened to it, I actually felt something. I felt like, man, it's really. But at the same time, I know it's generated by AI, so it's
Yeah,
such a crazy thing, dude.
but when they attribute certain things to you and they attribute certain things to me, it's like, man, how did they know that? Jamie must have put it in the prompt. Mark is this way, Eloy is that way. You know,
It's crazy.
and so but it came up with good music, even had a little solo in there.
It did. It was good, and look, it was
Yeah,
a pleasurable thing to listen to.
it was well done. It was well done.
None of it was done by human beings.
Well, it was done by Jamie Page.
That's right. But the playing,
Hmm.
the person singing it, who's
Yep.
that? Who
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah. Some AI voice.
All right. I
Yeah.
guess we've run the marathon.
Um, I I'm doing everybody a disservice. Everybody a disservice because I should have talked to you about this beforehand, but we were knee deep in the hoopla as it were, and we're in the middle of another discussion. Um, I will not be available to do the podcast next Tuesday. The reason is because Linda is going in for back surgery on Monday. She is going to be down for a total of 3 months. Um, and so she's going to be fresh out of the surgery and is going to be recovering. So I will not be. So if you want to come on and do it by yourself, you're more than welcome. But I will not be available next week at
Oh,
all.
okay.
So I'm not doing any of my live streams. And I'm sorry to spring this on you now. I should have said something before we went, but we got into a heavy conversation.
Okay.
So there will be. I will not be here next week. So if you decide to do something on your own, fine. But I won't be here.
Well, we can take a vacation and wish
Okay.
Linda a quick recovery and that she's well.
And this is. I mean, this is from the surgeon. He's looking at her and he's going, "You are not going to lift. You are not going to bend your spine. You are not going to twist for 3 months." He looked at directly over at me and he said, "You are going to cook. You're going to do the laundry. You're going to do all the dishes, all of that stuff. She's not doing any of it. If you can't do that, we're not doing the surgery." So basically, I'm going to be chief cook, bottle washer, and the whole damn thing. so,
All right.
so I won't be here next week.
All right. Well, Linda, we wish you a quick recovery, and all right, we'll be in touch then when you get a chance. Boy, that's a heavy one.
Just wondering how far I can milk this, she says. Milk whatever you want, but you can't bend your spine or twist while you're doing it. So there.
But you'll be able to walk to and fro and whatnot.
Yeah, he does want her to get up and move around, but
But
I mean, the day after the surgery, she's not going to want to do much of that.
but when
Believe
you
me.
sit on a chair, you're bending.
Hmm. Well, yeah, okay. It's her lower spine, and he doesn't want her to bend. He's lining up and fusing the vertebrae, and they're going to be held with titanium rods and screws and that whole shebang. And so she can bend at the hips, but she needs to keep her spine straight to let those bones fuse together. They're fusing three vertebrae together.
Okay.
So she can't, and she bumped into a woman at Walmart, and evidently they got talking. She said something about going in for back surgery, and the lady says, "Do not twist. Do not twist and do not bend." I didn't listen to the doctor, and I'm paying the price now. Don't know if that means she's having another surgery or what. But, you know, well, this too shall pass. But, in fact, we went out and got her a new recliner because she couldn't scoot back into the one that she had, and it was darn near impossible to get the footrest down on it. So
Right.
got her one of those lift recliners that's got a remote on it, and it lifts her feet up, lays her back,
Those are good.
and then lifts her up so she can stand up by keeping her back straight. So,
So the idea is not she can sit this that and but
oh yeah,
it's the extreme bending or twist.
right. It's the bending and twisting down at that level, especially.
Oh, okay.
It's her lower back, it's the lumbar region.
Okay.
Is what is happening right now. The vertebrae sit one on top of the other with a disc in it. Hers are like that, pinching the nerve. And that's what's causing her problem. So they're going to straighten it out, take out the disc, put in some other substance there, and then fuse them together. So
And then that'll do it. Be as good as new.
we'll know in 6 months. We'll know in 6 months. For 3 months, she's basically a pumpkin. She doesn't get to do anything, and I got to do everything. And then after that, do a they're going to do a follow up, and said she should be good to go in 6 months.
Excellent.
So we're looking at March.
You're on a mission now.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it. We'll see what happens.
All right. Okay. So let's wrap this up then.
Alrighty.
Wishing Linda great health and recovery quickly, so that Mark can stop doing so many dishes. She's
I
always
told her, she's got to survive 30 days or 3 months of my cooking. So she can she can milk it as much as she wants. Just know I know where I can get microwave burritos. So you know.
all right. All right. So we go live every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast time here on the Trampled Underfoot podcast show on YouTube. We have a site over on Facebook, and that's Trampled Underfoot podcast on Facebook. We usually post videos, images, and assorted things there concerning what we talk about here. So be sure to check that out. And we also have a website, trampledunderfootpodcast.com. You can catch our past episodes over there. Be sure to check that out. And we're sponsored by.
Harneal Media. Couldn't find the ding dong button. Look, you know what Harneal Media is. You know what Steve does. How come you haven't gone over there and clicked that contact us button? You owe it to yourself. I'm not trying to sell you anything. You owe it to yourself to head over to harnealmedia.com. Click on that contact us link and shoot Steve a message. Let him know, hey, Steve, I'm interested in a website. I want to set up a web store. I want to get a hold of a print on demand companies because I got some ideas for merch. I got t shirt ideas. All this talk about AI and Neil Sedaka album covers have got the creative juices flowing, and I'm going to be a t shirt millionaire. Steve can hook you up. He can set you up with that print on demand company. He can set you up with that web store and get you moving. So you owe it to yourself. Do yourself a favor if you're even toying with the idea of a website. Head over to harnealmedia.com. There's a link to Harneal Media in every episode of this podcast on this channel and every video on this channel. So, harnealmedia.com, that's HARNEAL, media.com, sponsor of trampledunderfootpodcast.com.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed the show. We appreciate the interaction, thoughts, and so on. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe with the things that you enjoy doing, but have a blast. And we'll see you not this week, but a week or so into the future. We're wishing Linda well, and thank you all for stopping by. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peas.